So today I'm going to talk about how to turn imposter syndrome on its head quickly and easily. So what if having imposter syndrome is actually proof of your abilities and your success? So just think about that for a moment. Now, I propose that that really is the case, and that that fact can completely change the way that you feel when you put yourself and your work out into the world. So when we start out in business, we are usually full of dreams and motivation and confidence. But here's the thing. Your subconscious mind is not your friend. It's more like a beast. And without warning, it can start undermining you, telling you that you're a fraud, that you're not good enough. And if you're not prepared, it can sabotage your success, your health, your relationships, everything. So in the next 15 minutes, you'll discover what is really happening when you feel like an imposter, why conventional wisdom can actually make things worse, and how you can turn your imposter on its head and skyrocket your confidence. So who needs this knowledge? Well, if you're just starting out, forewarned is forearmed, right? If you're already successful and are thriving, well, imposter syndrome often strikes out of the blue, so it's still important for you to understand this. And of course, it may already be happening without you realizing it. So why is a former engineer like me talking about imposter syndrome? Well, as you've just heard, I was what you would call a high-flying academic. I had an illustrious career at Cambridge University, PhD, postdoctoral research fellowship, and then at the age of 26, I walked into what should have been my absolute dream job, lecturer in mechanics of materials. But here's the thing. When I walked into that engineering department, it was as if the rug had been pulled out from under me for no readily apparent reason. My confidence evaporated, my stress skyrocketed, even though I could do the job just fine. And what's more, the longer I was there, the worse it got. So after only 6 years, this all spiraled into what I now call a spectacular burnout. And I was left with chronic fatigue syndrome and the loss of the scientific career that I'd worked so hard for. So what happened? Well, I wasn't going to give up. Looking at the surface did not provide the answer at all. But I was determined to find the solution, so I had to look deeper into the world of the subconscious. And this led to 20 years of research into the subconscious patterns that sabotage us without us realizing it. Now, the way that I find out what is in the subconscious is using a form of kinesiology, where I can test the body to find out what the subconscious actually believes, as opposed to what our conscious mind believes, because these two things are very, very different. And all the conclusions that I'm going to present to you now are based on literally thousands of hours of testing on many individuals. Could I have the slides larger, please? Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you, that's lovely. So the next slide, please. So what is really happening when we get more successful? Okay, so at the start, we set out with our ambition, our vision, our desire, and we make our goals, our plans, we take action, and we begin to get results towards success. And when that happens, what we hope is that our money, our visibility, our impact, our responsibility, our leadership, all these things begin to increase. And all is well until you hit a hidden subconscious limit. And then this beast triggers. The beast triggers in your subconscious, and this creates the imposter syndrome. Now, this can manifest in many different ways, but typical symptoms are, of course, feeling like a fraud, but also overwhelm, low confidence, stress and anxiety that's out of proportion, feeling blocked, feeling not good enough. And that free path that you had between where you are and your success, that has changed into a mountain that you have to get through to get where you want to go. So what is our assumption at this point? So we are feeling that we're not ticking the right boxes. We feel this inner conflict, and we assume that there is some higher standard of ability, experience, intelligence, and we just aren't reaching that. We perceive ourselves to be somewhere underneath, somewhere inadequate. We feel that mismatch, and we think it's negative, and we make the conclusion, I'm not good enough. And it's a vicious cycle. You feel anxiety, so you assume that you're not good enough. And it makes you doubt yourself, so you feel like a fraud, so you hold back more, and your stress goes up, etc., etc., etc. And this is where most people get stuck. But we are going to go deeper. So I'm going to ask you to put all of those previous assumptions in the bin. So let me introduce you to the iceberg of your mind. Now, an iceberg is a brilliant way of thinking about the mind. The bit of the ice that's above the surface of the water, that is conscious you, 21st century you. That is the part that has all of your own conscious beliefs about the world, beliefs about your entitlements, your rights, your equality, your qualifications, your experience. It's all there. And you have absolutely no idea what is underneath. But here's the thing, when you go beneath the surface, the rest of the iceberg, that's your subconscious mind. It's much bigger. It's literally like a hidden operating system. And here's the problem. It is full of hidden, obsolete programming about the world. Sorry, thank you. It's hidden, obsolete programming about the world. Could I have this previous slide, please? Thank you. And basically, this is so important to understand. It's holding a whole load of limitations and restrictions and programs and rules which have got nothing to do with the 21st century. And here's the thing, you have no idea it's there, and it usually contradicts everything that you believe about your life. Next slide, please. Okay, so here is the situation in a nutshell. We think that we have got modern, state-of-the-art mental operating system because we are there living our 21st century lives, but we don't. What we've got is an ancient, clunking old machine. Now, you know full well that if you've got modern software and you tried to run it on a computer from the 1970s, it just isn't going to work at all. And this is the problem that we have with our subconscious mind. Right, so what is in your subconscious operating system? The thing to understand here is that you are being pulled back by the legacy of your heritage. Now, this, of course, is a very individual thing, but there are various key factors that pull us back again and again and again. For example, social class, religious heritage, traditional roles, the alpha male hierarchy, economic background, caste, if that's appropriate for your culture, and of course the big one for women, patriarchal limits on what women can be and do. Now remember, this is all hidden under the surface and it's all from the past. And the best way for you to get a handle on where your subconscious operating system is to imagine that you are living the life of your great-grandmother or your great-grandfather. That puts it in perspective in terms of your freedom, your opportunity, your money, how socially mobile you are, all of these things. So that gives you an idea of the gulf between what's locked in your subconscious and what you are needing to live your modern life. So here we have the problem. You and your subconscious mind are using very different benchmarks. There you are in your life. You think you're entitled, you think you have rights and entitlements, and of course you do on the surface, but that subconscious operating system, and you see it is very big, very dominant, it has a completely different perception of what is going on. So it goes like this. Your subconscious believes you're breaking the rules, you'll be punished, so it must stop you to keep you safe. So what does it do? It triggers a fight or flight, and it gives you valid reasons to backtrack. You're not good enough. You'll be ridiculed. You're going to be punished for this. You're in danger. So let's look at the truth. Now, remember, there's the stress we feel is because there is like a mismatch between where we are and where we think we should be. But here's the thing. We are being pulled back to subconscious benchmarks. So you'll see here, we've got low down subconscious benchmarks. These are the obsolete limits and rules from history that are sitting there in our operating system. Now we, of course, have ignored that. We've pushed ahead with our 21st century lives. We've achieved, we've got education, we've built businesses, all of those things. It has taken us way above those subconscious benchmarks. So there is a huge mismatch between what our mind is trying to make us do and where we actually are. But it's a positive mismatch. You are an imposter because you've gone too high. So here's an example. Now, this could have been me in my engineering career, but equally, any female entrepreneur, it's the same thing. So imagine a high-achieving woman. Now, she is going to have in her subconscious, believe it or not, the old programming of a woman should stay at home, support roles only, mustn't outshine the men, doesn't control money, no higher education. These are the low subconscious benchmarks that her subconscious would like her to stick to. Now, please understand, she has no idea that her subconscious is still holding on to those old, obsolete beliefs. Now, when I discovered that this kind of program was still there, anchored in my subconscious, I tell you, I was completely appalled. But there it was under the surface, telling me that what I was doing was forbidden. So any high-achieving woman, she is going to be completely blasted through these kind of beliefs. Of course she is, these kind of programs. She's gone way, way too high compared to her subconscious. She feels the mismatch, doesn't realize it's a positive mismatch, and so she feels not good enough. Let's look at a male example. So consider a male entrepreneur from a working class heritage. So he is going to trigger the subconscious because he's pulling away from hidden social class programming. So in his subconscious, the benchmark is going to have things like must stay at the bottom of the ladder, must have paid employment, a day's pay for a day's work, mustn't rise above his station. Now, of course, this man is proud of how far he's come, and he doesn't realize that his subconscious thinks he's broken the rules. And of course he has, because he's built a business, he employs people, he's a leader, he's done all this in the world, and it's completely breaking that old subconscious benchmark. So he feels like an imposter because, again, there's a big mismatch between where he is, his true level, and what his subconscious would like him to be. But it makes him feel that he's not good enough. So how do we deal with this? Well, firstly, I'm going to talk about what not to do, because that is extremely important. So you and your subconscious are going in different directions. I'm sure you've heard the conventional wisdom when it comes to things like, feeling that you're not good enough. You've probably heard things like lean in, fake it till you make it, push yourself out of your comfort zone, feel the fear and do it anyway. But here's the problem. Because your subconscious believes you're doing something forbidden and it's triggering all of this internal stress, the more you push into that, the more your subconscious is going to get stressed out, it's going to freak out, and it's going to try to pull you back more and more and more. It may be okay short term, but if you do this all the time, year after year, you simply can't accommodate that amount of strain and something is going to break. That's exactly what happened to me, because I had no idea that my subconscious thought me being a scientist was forbidden. I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And then, of course, everything broke and my health collapsed. So we don't want to give up. Of course not. But pushing forward isn't a good idea either. Instead, we need to vanquish the subconscious beast. And in doing so, we're going to turn the imposter on its head. So the first really important thing is to spot the signs. So things like feeling I'm a fraud, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, fears for no obvious reason, can't take the step, no confidence, feeling under attack, feeling not good enough. These are the alarm. This is the alarm that tells you that that hidden subconscious beast has triggered. Now, when that happens, it's so very important that you don't take any of this at face value. Instead, you ignore all thoughts that you are inadequate, because they are illusions. They're illusions created by your subconscious to try to stop you. And at that point, you bring in the new understanding. So here is your game-changing mindset shift. Imposter syndrome has nothing to do with you not being good enough. Quite the opposite. It is the discomfort that you feel when you've gone beyond where your subconscious mind believes you should be. So, feeling like a fraud, feeling not good enough, this is the proof of how talented, motivated and capable you are, because it proves that you have pulled away from those hidden limitations and restrictions. Many people really never manage to do that in their whole lives, and you have. Plus, the worse you feel, the bigger that mismatch. And the bigger the mismatch, the more you've achieved. So the more that you feel like an imposter, the more capable you really are. And when you understand this, then the imposter no longer has power over you, because it's just a measure of how much you've achieved. And this is the first essential step towards you winning the inner game of success.